What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Money Moves with Kay. I'm Kay, and today we're going to talk about 5 places to find owners who are literally begging you to buy their property, okay? Now, I've personally closed on each and every one of these ways I've discussed, and without further ado, let's get started. Now, one way to find these owners is going through the tax delinquent list. Currently, I'm going through a large tax delinquent list. And one quick tip here I want to discuss with you is to make sure that you have a criteria so you know what you're looking for. Trust me, it'll be a lot easier if you have a criteria and know exactly what you're looking for. So are you looking for 5 acres, 10 acres? If you're not looking for land at all, you're looking for cheap properties or properties that owe 2, 3, 4, or 5 years of taxes, whatever the case may be, make sure you have in your head or even write it down, especially if you're using virtual assistants to do this for you, because it is a large list. I typically like to go through the list myself. I can go through it pretty quickly because I know exactly what I'm looking for. Plus, I'm cheap and I just don't like to hire a virtual assistant. I'm a little bit more hands-on at the moment. But when you're going through this list, just make sure that you have a criteria. It'll make your job a lot easier. Please trust me on that. So the next question is, how do you find these properties? Well, there's numerous ways that you can find these properties. You can look at the newspaper articles. At the end of the year, there are posts in the newspaper in your local county or city. There are posts what property owners owe taxes, right? They may call it delinquent taxes or they may call it tax foreclosures, okay? You could also simply just Google tax foreclosure sales in blank county or tax delinquent sales in blank county. That'll pull it up as well and take you directly to the site that you're looking for. But for the most part, a lot of these properties are within a list, okay? So you can get the list from the tax assessor's office, okay? It may be free, they may charge you for the list, but the list is there. Now, if they tell you we don't have a list that currently exists, I want you to be a little bit resilient with this, right? So a lot of people come back to me and say, well, I didn't find the list. I looked a couple times, I didn't see it. Or I called and they said, no, they don't have that type of list. I would like for you to try multiple ways to try to get the same answer, right? Which is, yes, they do have this list, but you do have to do a little work if that county or particular county has been a little bit difficult. So if you can't see it online, if you don't know who to contact, give them a call. If they say they don't have it via a phone call, write them an email, write multiple people to try to get the same answer of, yes, we can have the list delivered to you, or you can purchase it or whatever the case may be. But they do have these lists for the most part, most cities and counties, and a lot of times they are free. The list that I have is absolutely free. So I'm going through it, I'm finding owners, I'm contacting owners, and I like to go directly to the owner because if you're going through tax foreclosure sales online, then that means it's an auction, and which means also that you may not get the lowest price possible, right? So I want to get the lowest price possible, and I try to directly go through the owner of the property or the seller to strike up a deal and catch that property before it goes to the tax auction, because at that point it's a lose-lose-lose. I'll be paying a lot higher price. The owner of the property would not receive any funds. And it's just not a good look. And I would like to add that these are properties typically from tax deed states, okay? So North Carolina, for instance, is a tax deed state. I'll make another video with information on tax lien states versus tax deed states. But for now, yes, go through the tax delinquent list. It's an excellent way to find owners who are like, please take my property, all right? Yeah. The second way to find these owners is going through divorce records. Now, we'll admit here that you will have to be a mediator whether you want to or not. And it does depend on if the couple had or divorced with consensual terms and it was kind of cordial. If it wasn't cordial, you are in for a ride. Please believe me. Ask me how I know. Okay. So with these records, you can typically get it from a site called PropStream. I'll link it below. You can go to PropStream and it'll tell you newly divorced couples or divorced couples in general. They don't have to be newly divorced. You can also go to the county clerk and get these records yourself, right? But what you're looking for is divorced couples who want nothing to do with their ex. Again, they could have divorced cordially or not. But the point is that they're at a spot where they say, we need to get rid of this property. I don't want my name on anything your name is on, okay? So it kind of makes it a little easier for you to slide in, and they are literally asking you like, please take my property. I don't want anything to do with this person, right? So like I said, you can decide how you want to proceed with this, because typically you will be a mediator because it's a back and forth, okay? They may still be mad. It could be still fresh, right? So keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is to see if the state in which the property is in is a marital state or not. If it's a marital state, then the couple that divorced has to sign, right? Each individual has to sign, but also their spouses, their new spouses, if they're remarried, have to sign as well. And that can be tricky, right? That can be very tricky because if Samantha and John divorced, right, and they have a new spouse, well, or one of them has a new spouse, but the other one doesn't, now it could still continue to be drama because they're like, I don't want to sign because I don't want the new wife to get any money, da, 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 da. It can be drama filled. However, these are excellent deals. I've closed on a property, two properties where the couple was newly divorced and it was an excellent profit. So you're solving a problem. All this is solving a problem. This entire list is solving a problem. Finding these deals are solving a problem. You are coming in and swooping in and saying, hey, I can help you guys. I can help you guys get rid of the property, end ties with each other and move on. So keep that in mind when you're looking for these properties. Again, I'll link the PropStream link below so that you can check it out in the description. The third way to find these owners is absentee owners, okay? So absentee owners have purchased a property in one state or city and they live in another city or state, okay? So these are great leads because they typically have no or want no connection to the property unless it's a rental property. So the key here is to find these owners or find the houses that are in shambles, like they need work, a lot of work. And it could be a headache for them to even fix it, all right? Or these are landlords who may live in another city or state and they're tired landlords. So that's actually another lead within itself. Landlords, if you rob by a house and the property is in shambles, it looks rough, and you find out through your research that it is a rental, those are good leads because they may be a fed up landlord who just says, I'm done. I really want to get rid of this property. So absentee owners are a great lead. Now, the sweet spot here is finding an absentee owner that also owes taxes. That gives it a double level of motivation in which they are ready to get rid of the property. Why? Because they're not in the area and also they owe taxes. That lets me know that they may not want anything to do with the property, which I can swoop in and either purchase it, or a lot of times I may wholesale it depending on the state in which I'm in. But these are excellent leads because, again, they have nothing, they want nothing to do with the property. And I'll give you an example. There was one property that I wholesaled. This was years ago. I wholesaled the property, and as soon as I contacted the owner, she said, thank you, Jesus. All right. So that is a prime example of owners just really not wanting anything to do with the property. And that owner owed still on her mortgage. And yes, you can wholesale properties with the mortgage still existing. She owed about $30,000 on her mortgage, and that was cleared out once the owner or the new owner, the buyer, purchased the property. And the reason why she was ready and eager to sell is because she lived in Georgia. And also the property was damaged. It had a tree that had fell on the home. And once I went in, it was a little mold because rain was seeping through the roof, and it was a whole lot of damage, okay? And she didn't want anything to do with the property because she wasn't there. She doesn't have an emotional tie to the property, and she was in another state, and it had a mortgage in which she was like, I need to get rid of this load, which is what she told me. I need to get rid of this financial load because I don't live there. It's not like I'm renting the property out. It's just sitting vacant. So absentee owners are an excellent way to find these properties or these deals in which the owner is ready to get rid of them. The fourth way to find these owners is looking for owners that are heirs, okay? So from my research, there's a high correlation between tax delinquent properties and properties in which the owner is an heir, which means basically that someone has passed away and they've given the property to someone else, whether it be a relative or not, okay? And my research going through the tax delinquent list, I would say 80 to 85% of the tax delinquent properties are owners in which they're heirs, okay? And one or two things can happen. Number one, they may not have the funds to pay the taxes or the upkeep of the home, in which that puts them in a bind because they may have their own home. They may have their own expenses, and Auntie Sue, who passed away, unfortunately, they may or may not have been close to Auntie Sue. So they may not even have an emotional connection to the property or even her. So keep that in mind that every situation is not the same when you're dealing with these properties. Yes, tread lightly because this is a tricky situation. If a person has passed away too soon, my personal standard is I don't contact folks who are dealing with a death, whether they're close to them or not, within a certain amount of time. Again, that goes to my criteria. I'm looking for certain things, okay? But most times these property owners, they don't want the property because they may have their own situation. So if I see an heir who owns the property and is on a tax delinquent list, that's a double whammy for me. That's two levels of motivation in which I can contact them and say, hey, I see that this property was given to you. Are you still interested in keeping it? And the conversation goes from there. Number two, what they could do is just simply keep the property. They want to keep it in their family. Maybe Aunt Sue meant a lot to them. Maybe Aunt Sue had a great conversation with them to say, hey, keep this property, keep this land, whatever I give to you, keep it in the family. And they pay the taxes and they do not want to sell. In fact, they get very annoyed and offended if you ask them, do you want to sell this property? Okay. So those are the type of situations you could deal with properties in which the owner is an heir. But these are excellent ways to find these deals because a lot of times they don't have the financial means to keep up with two different homes or two different pieces of land or whatever the case may be, because they may not be making enough. Inflation is crazy. So it's like, man, I really love Aunt Sue, but and that's just my example, Aunt Sue. I really love Aunt Sue, but I can't keep up with this financially. So I'll go ahead and sell. So keep that in mind. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is heirship laws. Yes, those laws vary per state. So in certain states, if a person passes away without a will, that property automatically goes to the spouse. All right. And from there, it goes to the kids. And there's a lineage, so to speak, of what happens with the property. OK. In some states it's different. Okay, so keep in mind, you do need to look at the heirship laws. Now, what I've run across with so many properties that the owners are heirs is that there may need to be a lot of different signatures. Okay, so if there was a husband and wife and had kids, and that property goes to the kids and let's say, or a child, and let's say that the owners had 10 kids. Well, in a particular city and state that I'm wholesaling in or purchasing in, I have to get every one of their signatures, even though that piece of land might have been deeded to just one individual child. I would have to get the signatures of all the siblings and their spouses if it's a marital state. So this thing gets pretty deep. You want to make sure that you look at the heirship laws because it can make or break your deal, especially if you're directly trying to contact the owner, thinking you're just contacting the owner. This literally just happened with me with a property in which I had a billboard on the land, and the deal fell through because he could not get the signatures of everybody, right? All his brothers and sisters, in which a lot of his brothers and sisters were deceased themselves. So what do you do there? In my particular state that I'm purchasing these properties in, you had to get even more signatures from the person that they willed it to. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So keep in mind, make sure that you know the heirship laws in the city or state that you're trying to purchase in. Now, the fifth way to find owners is through fire damaged homes. Now, like everything else, I want you to tread lightly and make sure that you give enough time for these homeowners to actually get themselves together. It would be foolish, insensitive, rude to contact these folks immediately after their home just caught on fire, not knowing if someone was actually hurt or not. So I always put that disclaimer out there, even going through heirs, okay, which meets my criteria of when I'm contacting these folks. I try my best to be as sensitive as possible because this is a serious matter. It can happen to literally anyone, okay? And I've actually closed, again, on a home that was fire damaged, and I'll kind of disclose the details in just a second. But where you can get these lists is through the fire department. Again, I want you to show a little bit of resistance and resilience. And if they say we don't have that type of list, they may, right? So call them. You can go by there. You can actually email them or whatever the case may be to get these lists. Now, for my city, they don't have a list, but they have a list that's online. So it's public record of each and every house that the fire department has gone to that day. So they do like a daily log. You kind of have to go through the daily log. The newspaper articles may also be a good resource for you to find properties that may have some damage as well. But again, tread lightly with this situation and be very considerate of their situation because it can happen to anybody. So the deal that I had, this was my second wholesale deal that I closed. Again, this was years ago. And the home was fire damaged. But here's the kicker. The owner was, I think, in Ohio, and the property was in North Carolina. And the property was still in good shape. He was told, I don't know through who, it could have been an appraiser. I don't know who told him that the property was a tear down because it wasn't. I wholesaled this property actually twice. All right. So basically what happened was the tenant, because he was renting the property out, the tenant was cooking some French fries in the kitchen. on, I guess, the stovetop, and there was a grease fire, and it really impacted the kitchen. I seen the property. Did a walkthrough of the property, and it was really damaged. It had I guess silt or whatever, like from fire damage all over the walls and in the hallway. Okay, so it spread pretty quickly and pretty far. But the other rooms were still fairly intact. It did have a smell of smoke. Okay, however, the home was still in fairly good condition. So he pretty much said, yeah, I'll just take whatever for the property because I was told that it's a tear down. So I end up making like 5 figures from that property because and the reason why it's a good deal is because home insurance companies pretty much pay off the property. So now you have a property that's free and clear. Now you can negotiate directly through the owner a good deal because they just say, okay, I'll take, $15,000 for it because that's what he sold it to me for, or I put it under contract for. It's $15,000, which was the price or the value of the land, because again, he thought it was a tear down. So I was able to sell that property. I gained a profit. And then the owner who purchased the property said, this was a year later, said, hey, Kay, I thought I could do some stuff with the property, but I just don't have the time or the funds to kind of fix it up. So can you sell it for me again? And that's how I was able to sell the property twice. All right. So it was a good deal. And the end buyer purchased the property, fixed it up, and resold it on the market when the market was smoking hot. All right. So keep in mind, these are good deals, but also keep in mind to keep your sensitivity with these deals because you never know, right? It could happen to you or I. So I try to be very sensitive with these situations. Thank you so very much for making it to this point. If you made it to this point, I appreciate you. And in the comment section, I want you to drop "It's official," all right? It lets me know that you made it to this point in the video, and I appreciate you for sure. Until next time, guys, you stay blessed. Peace.